interpreted this law in some bizarre way to allow bosses to permanently replace an employee, which is somehow different mechanically than being fired. I wanted to mention really quickly the Case New Holland strike because we've talked about it before with Mel Buer, who's been doing a lot of reporting for it, who's been doing a lot of reporting on it for the Real News Network.
Yes.
It lasted about 8 months, and now the 1,100-member Case New Holland strike is over, with members of the two striking locals, the UAW Local 180 in Racine, Wisconsin, and Local 807 in Burlington, Iowa, voting by 62% to accept the deal. Haven't seen the details yet, pulling some of this from Jonah's newsletter. I did a little bit of reading this morning and wasn't able to find any real, detailed analysis of it. But workers rejected a deal by 55 to 45% 2 weeks ago that reportedly provided for 28% wages but kept some healthcare concessions. So presumably, there are at least some tweaks to this offer that swung those 17 percentage points. And part of that tweak, unfortunately, may have been the company's threat to hire 220 permanent replacement workers, which they announced soon before the vote.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. We've talked a little bit about the PRO Act here on the show. My understanding is that under the PRO Act, were that to become law, a company could not do what they threatened to do by bringing in permanent replacement workers for the striking workers. Was that your read on it as well? It's been a while.
Yes, it has been a while. It's been a long time. I just Googled it while you were mentioning that. But yes, the PRO Act does prohibit employers from permanently replacing striking workers. It bans the use of offensive lockouts and removes prohibitions on secondary activity is some of those things, is some of the things that the PRO Act does as it relates to strikes. But yeah, that's, and the whole ability, it really should, frankly, we shouldn't need another law to ban permanent replacements, because the only reason that employers are able to quote unquote permanently replace striking workers is because of an absurd interpretation of the NLRA prohibition on firing workers for striking. The law already prohibits you as an employer. It is illegal for you to fire an employee for striking. That is illegal. And it has been illegal for nearly 100 years. But because of some radical, activist judge, activist pro-boss judge, they interpreted this law in some bizarre way to allow bosses to permanently replace an employee, which is somehow different than mechanically than being fired. Right. It's so absurd. It's absurd. And if we had a judiciary that was actually committed to just, an originalist understanding of the NLRA or labor law in this country, they would not be able to already. It would be illegal to permanently replace employees, because what does it mean when you permanently replace an employee? That means they're fired. That means they do not have a job to go back to. And so how is that different? How is that different from if somebody, we have a prohibition on firing striking workers. And so somehow it's illegal for you to go up and say you're fired, but it's not illegal for you to go up and say you don't have a job anymore. It's just absurd. It's the stupidest, most, it's just ridiculous.
It is, yeah. And I think, there again, we see where labor law, as inefficient and insufficient as it is in this country, even what's on the books is not properly interpreted or properly enforced, right? Because I think the other piece to that is when a company gets to the point that they're bringing in permanent replacement workers, you got a pretty clear sign that they've been bargaining in bad faith.
Yeah,
in my opinion. And I think that's also another trend where these companies, they act in bad faith. They have no real desire to negotiate in good faith, but they're confident that the government will allow them to get away with it. Think about Warrior Met Coal. I mean, does anyone really think here, 20 months deep, over 20 months deep into the strike, that Warrior Met Coal was acting in good faith, that they really want to settle this strike? You know, it's absurd. So I haven't followed the Case New Holland strike very closely, with it being in Iowa and, you know, that kind of outside of our neck of the woods. But I'm certainly happy to see this strike come to an end. I hope that it was a successful contract win for these 1,100 members. Just want to send my love and solidarity to the UAW members out there for fighting the good fight.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.